I wasn't supposed to see the video. That was obvious within the first 5 seconds. The camera was angled too low. Voices overlapped. Someone laughed before the recording even settled. Then my aunt's voice came through, clear and amused. "She's such a pathetic failure," she said. My name followed. Casual, dismissive. The room laughed with her. Not awkward laughter, comfortable laughter. The kind that comes from repetition. My mom chimed in next. "She should be grateful we even help her," she said, like generosity was something they extended out of pity. My dad added something I'd heard variations of my entire life. "She wouldn't survive without us." More laughter. The video lasted less than a minute. It ended with my aunt realizing she was still recording. A sharp intake of breath, then silence. A second later, a text appeared under it. "OMG, wrong person, please delete." I didn't reply. I watched the video again, not to hurt myself, to understand it, because while they were calling me a failure, there was something they weren't mentioning. Every bill they didn't pay themselves. Every loan that was never repaid. Every month my account quietly covered their gaps. They laughed like I was a burden, like I owed them something. I sat there with my phone in my hand, oddly calm. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't ask for explanations. I just checked the date. The next payment was due in 4 days. And for the first time in years, I didn't schedule it. I'd been paying quietly for a long time. Not because anyone asked directly, because it was easier that way. A utility bill here, a credit card balance there. Something always came up right before it was due. My mom called it helping family. My dad called it temporary. No one ever called it what it was. Expectation. They never thanked me the way people thank you when they know the cost. It was more like acknowledgement, a nod, a reminder that I should be grateful to be useful. When I sent money, conversations stayed light. When I didn't, they grew tense. I learned which version of myself kept things peaceful. The one who didn't ask questions. The one who didn't bring up totals. The one who didn't mention that I'd been covering expenses longer than anyone realized. In their stories, I was struggling, unstable, behind. In reality, I was stable enough to absorb their shortfalls without flinching. That contradiction never seemed to bother them. They spoke about me like I wasn't in the room, like I wasn't the one making sure lights stayed on. Watching the video again, I noticed how relaxed they were. No anger, no bitterness, just certainty. They genuinely believed what they were saying, that I owed them, that they were doing me a favor by letting me help. I locked my phone and set it down. 4 days wasn't much time, but it was enough. Enough to see what happened when I stopped quietly holding everything together. Enough to see who noticed first and who didn't notice at all until something stopped working. My name is Nora. I'm the one they describe as still figuring things out. That's how they explain why I don't push back, why I don't correct them, why I quietly cover things instead of asking why I'm expected to. I learned early that being dependable made me invisible in a useful way. When my parents fell behind on rent years ago, I stepped in without announcing it. When my aunt needed help after her hours were cut, I sent money and told her not to worry about it. When bills stacked up, I handled them. No contracts. No thank yous. Just understanding. At least, that's what I thought it was. They treated my help like background noise. Reliable. Replaceable. If I ever hesitated, the tone changed. Concern slipped into irritation. Don't you have savings? You're not doing much else right now. Family helps family. I never said how much it added up to. I never said how long it had been going on. It felt safer to let them believe I was barely keeping up. Watching that video, I realized how carefully they'd built that story. They needed me to be a failure, because failures don't get to set boundaries. Failures don't get thanked. Failures are supposed to be grateful for the chance to contribute. I set my phone down and stared at the wall. For years, I'd been paying to maintain a version of myself that made them comfortable. In 4 days, that version was going to disappear. Not loudly, just quietly when the payment didn't go through. And they were going to feel it before they understood it. The first bill to hit was the electric. I knew because my mom always paid it last. Waited until the notice showed up. Then called me, voice tight, already stressed. This time, the call didn't come. Not that day. Not the next. I checked my bank app out of habit. No pending payment. No automatic transfer. The silence felt strange at first, like I'd missed a step. I reminded myself I hadn't. By the second day, my aunt texted, just a question mark. I didn't respond. That night, I replayed the video again. Not the words, the tone, how relaxed they were, how sure. They weren't worried about hurting me because, in their minds, I wasn't going anywhere. I was a fixed line in the budget. On the third day, my dad called. Hey, he said casually. Quick question. Did something change with the payments? There it was. Not are you okay? Not we need to talk. Just maintenance. Yes, I said. One word. Nothing else. The pause on the other end stretched longer than usual. What do you mean? He asked. I mean I'm not covering things anymore, I replied. Still calm. He cleared his throat. Well, that's not ideal. I almost laughed. Not ideal was being called a failure by people who couldn't keep the lights on without me. But I didn't say that. I let the silence sit, because, for the first time, they were the ones calculating, and they had no idea how much they'd been relying on something they never respected. The calls came faster after that. Not angry, anxious. My mom called twice that night, left one voicemail. Let's not make this a big deal, she said, already negotiating. We can talk it through. Talk it through meant fix it quietly. The next morning, my aunt texted again. This time, more words. I think there was a misunderstanding. We were joking. You know how families talk. I stared at the message for a long time. Families don't joke about people they respect. I didn't reply. By noon, the electric company notice went out. Not to me. To them. That was when the tone shifted. My dad called back, voice lower now. Are you upset about something? He asked. Like this had just occurred to him. Yes, I said. Then I stopped. I didn't explain. I didn't reference the video. I didn't list the years or the totals. If I did that, it would turn into a debate. And I wasn't debating reality anymore. What do you want? He asked finally. The question surprised him. It surprised me too. I want you to handle your own bills, I said. From now on. Another pause. That's a lot to take on all at once, he replied. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. It is, I said. That was the moment they realized something important. I wasn't threatening them. I wasn't punishing them. I was stepping out of a role they'd assigned me without asking. And once someone steps out of a system like that, it doesn't collapse dramatically. It just stops working, piece by piece, payment by payment, silence by silence. They tried a different approach after that. Concern. My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced 2 days later, brought groceries I didn't ask for, set them on the counter like proof of effort. You look tired, she said, not kindly, assessing. I'm fine, I replied. She sighed and leaned against the counter. We're just worried about you, she said. Asking for help like this isn't healthy. I almost smiled. For years, they had been asking. I'd just been answering. My aunt called while my mom was still there. Put her on speaker without asking. We didn't mean anything by that video, my aunt said quickly. You know how people exaggerate. Exaggerate. No apology. Just revision. My mom nodded along, relieved. See? Problem solved. I waited until the call ended. You called me a failure, I said, while I was paying your bills. My mom stiffened. That wasn't what she meant. It doesn't matter, I said. What matters is that you believed it. That landed differently. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I wasn't angry. That was the part she didn't recognize. Anger invites bargaining. Calm ends conversations. I'm not cutting you off, I said. I'm just done subsidizing disrespect. She looked at the groceries on the counter, then at me. So, what now? She asked. Now, I said. You handle your life, and I handle mine. She left a few minutes later. The groceries stayed. I donated them the next morning, not out of spite, out of clarity, because support that comes after you're exposed isn't generosity, it's damage control. After that, the narrative changed, not publicly, privately. My aunt stopped texting altogether. My dad sent shorter messages, stripped of assumptions. My mom started asking before she spoke, small shifts, careful ones. The bills, though, didn't wait. Late notices arrived, then final warnings. I knew because my dad mentioned them without asking for money outright. Just facts. Like updates I was supposed to absorb. The gas company called, he said once. Things are tight. I listened. Didn't respond. Silence does something interesting when people are used to excess. They start filling it with truth. A week later, my aunt called crying. Not about me. About stress. About feeling overwhelmed. I didn't realize how much you were helping, she said. That was the closest thing to honesty I'd heard. I did, I replied. She paused, then asked, can we work something out? I thought about the video, the laughter, the certainty. No, I said, but I hope you do. That wasn't cruelty. It was alignment. Because help given under false assumptions isn't kindness. It's maintenance. And once you stop maintaining a system built on disrespect, people have to confront the reality they'd been outsourcing. By the end of the month, they'd adjusted. Not comfortably, but independently. No more jokes. No more casual insults. They spoke to me differently now, carefully. Not because they respected me more, but because they finally understood what my silence had been carrying. And once that weight is gone, it doesn't come back. No matter how much someone misses the convenience of it. The strangest part was how ordinary everything became. No final confrontation. No dramatic apology tour. Just adjustment. My parents downsized their expenses. My aunt picked up extra shifts. Conversations shifted away from complaints and toward logistics. They learned quickly when they had to. That's what happens when help stops being automatic. My mom called one evening and asked how work was going. Not fishing, just asking. I told her, briefly. She didn't interrupt, didn't redirect the conversation back to herself. When we hung up, I realized something had changed. They weren't kinder, they were more careful. And that was enough. The video never came up again, not because it was forgotten, because it had already done its job. It showed me how comfortable they were saying those things when they thought I'd never hear them. And it showed them what happened when the person they underestimated stopped absorbing the cost. I didn't block anyone. I didn't demand apologies. I just kept living without quietly fixing things for them. Money stayed where it belonged. Time did too. Respect didn't suddenly appear, but entitlement disappeared. And that was the real shift. When people stop assuming you'll save them, they start treating you like someone who doesn't need saving either. Not a failure, not a backup plan, just someone no longer available to be laughed at behind closed doors. A month later, my aunt tried to joke about it. We were all on a group call, talking about nothing important, when she laughed and said, "Guess we can't tease you anymore, huh?" The room went quiet. She meant it lightly, like this was all behind us, like the problem had been tone, not belief. I didn't react right away. Then I said, "You can say whatever you want." I paused. "I just won't pay for it." No one laughed. My mom cleared her throat. My dad looked down. That was the moment it settled for everyone. This wasn't about punishment. It was about access. They still had me in their lives. They just didn't have my silence anymore, or my money. After that, the jokes stopped completely, not replaced with praise, just removed, which told me something important. They'd never needed to insult me to cope. They'd needed to feel above someone while depending on them. Once that contradiction was gone, the behavior disappeared with it. I ended the call early and sat alone for a while afterward. Not sad, not triumphant, just clear. I'd spent years believing keeping the peace meant carrying the weight quietly. Turns out, peace isn't something you maintain. It's something that shows up when you stop paying to keep everyone comfortable at your expense. I still have the video, not because I watch it, because I don't need to. It reminds me of something I used to forget too easily. People will tell the truth about how they see you when they think there's no cost. For years, my family believed there wasn't. They could laugh, dismiss, depend. And I would keep things running quietly in the background. When that stopped, nothing exploded. That's the part people expect to happen. No shouting matches, no dramatic apologies, no sudden respect, just a slow recalibration. They learned how to live within their means. They learned how to speak to me without assuming I'd fix things afterward. They learned that help isn't something you're entitled to just because you're related. I learned something too. Silence isn't strength if it's bought with self-erasure. Generosity isn't kindness if it's expected. And loyalty that only flows one way isn't loyalty at all. I didn't cut anyone off. I didn't announce boundaries. I enforced them by doing less, by paying nothing, by rescuing no one, by letting consequences land where they belonged. The next time someone joked at my expense, it didn't sting, because I finally understood what they'd been mistaking for weakness. It wasn't. It was labor. And once I stopped providing it, everything else fell into place exactly as it should have.